see. Where are we at here? Where are we at here? Hello, everyone. If you're catching the replay, welcome. I'm Steve. Mark's not around at the moment, and this is SmokeySteveAndMarc. Welcome back, and happy Saturday. It is the weekend. It is the weekend, so we will have caffeine in the evening. Might need a little bit of it. We have to be out, so we'll catch the replay. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. McPhoebe. Have a good time. We'll see you when. It's more of an impromptu one. Annie with an L, not with a P. Hello, how are you? Happy Saturday. We actually were pretty productive for a Saturday. We got up and we went out, we did some shopping, that kind of stuff. Hey, LA, how are you? Lisa, hello. You had to get my sandwich. Hi. Christine, hola. ¿Qué tal? Grateful Life, hello. So, yeah, we went out today to do a little bit of grocery shopping, and it was at a scratch and dent shopping place. We took some footage, maybe we'll show you soon. But it's one of those places where like stuff is usually ridiculously cheap, so that's always fun to me. Stardust, Tiffany, Samantha. Jury duty. Well, you're such a good American. Why do people just don't go? You made a live summer. Well, welcome. Let a few more people trickle in while we're just chilling. I'm not doing coffee today because it's pretty hot outside. It just didn't do it for me. Hey, great, Greenbow. Hello, here to judge. So yeah, Mark is around. He was working out in the garden, I think, for a little bit because a lot of our work for YouTube is at night, but so is the gardening because we both have 9-to-5s. So it's a treat for him to not have to do a lot of editing after this. Trouble staying with anything more than 5 minutes. Me too, you know. I like to I'm surprised that in my older age I even wanted to get like married or buy a house. Those things felt so permanent, and permanent at the time when I was young felt scary. Now it's desirable beyond all belief. You know, I just want some peace for the time. Take that third nap. Live on the edge. Napping is one of my hobbies. I don't do it very well, but I'm always excited, especially in the winter, if it's like a half day of work, and turn the lights down and it's maybe snowing and bundle all up. So, Lisa, take it or leave it. Hello. Julia, good evening. So, welcome everybody. I hope everyone's been well. I hope everyone's still doing well. The weather, the natural event, like there's all sorts of stuff. Bob Barker died. I just, like today, it's been too much. So to talk about something a little bit less important, I figured this was a good chance to do that too. It's just been, I stay away from a lot of the news. I like to know what's going on. I like to read my news. I don't want to hear someone tell me the news. I'd rather read it because then I can stop reading whenever I want. Sweater shopping. Oh, it is that time, isn't it? You stayed on the high side of the heat dome. That is good. Thank you, Lisa. Try to be sensible. I mean, she is a human being, I guess. And like I said, I think a lot of people, I've said it, and I hope they understand when I say that a lot of the things that she identifies as problems in her life, I can relate to. It's seeing her go through the motions of it. It's like watching someone run around inside a burning house, and you're screaming, the exit's right there, and they're so distracted with their own bullshit and fear that they don't do it. So, you know, kind of reminded me of that a bit. Real simple. I prefer to read it myself. And I read a bunch of variety because, you know, who do you trust? So see what everyone says. Yes, it is Addiction 101. I was watching Chantal's Eating this week and it was thinking very similar to the way I used to drink. You know, we're having an early lunch today. To her, that means she was having Subway at about 8 o'clock in the morning, probably. She keeps weird hours. She doesn't keep regular sleep hours, even on a schedule that isn't not synced with most of the rest of her viewing audience. But I don't know. But she eats like she hates herself sometimes. And I used to drink like I used to hate myself too. Just big slugs. What if I get sick? And there's a certain like excitement of getting your fix. Like I'm sure waiting for the Uber Eats guy, she's like heart pounding out of her chest. And other people who don't have food issues would go, what the fuck's your problem? You have food in the fridge if you're that desperate. But there's an excitement to the process, I think, for her, for getting food, having it. It's extra gravy if Sala lets her get something a little more a little more chewy with some more bread, those kind of things. I think a lot of the healthy food that streams through is from him. If you see a salad, she can buy it. Unless it's a Cobb salad with blue cheese dressing and Texas toast croutons. No, she did not get that. And she had a tuna sandwich from Subway the other day. She looked like she didn't look happy to be eating it, pretty much. So last week when we all congregated, they went to Sala had taken her to a clinic because she was having some health problems being outdoors for 2 minutes. And she was looking for a reason to stay sedentary and not go outside. Like, she's got the best Rolodex of excuses for why she can't do things. And if you knock one of them out, she's got another one in place. If it's not the dizziness, it's the blood clots. If it's not the blood clots, it's the bed. I don't know. If you have so many different levels of how you sit down and eat, this is a snack. It's not a snack. This isn't a mukbang, it's a meal. Well, how big is the meal? The only difference seems to be if we see it or not. There's a component to bed that's very private. To where it is a lot of mental health and addictive kind of things. I don't know here, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it either. But not every person who deals with addiction, whether it's food, drugs, or whatever, is a co-occurring asshole where they are entirely sick. Only to say that not everything that comes out of Chantal's mouth or anything that comes out of her mouth gets dampened by the kind of person she is. I'm sympathetic to her struggles, but I'm not sympathetic to her personality in dealing with it. I don't feel bad when she's discouraged because she sets herself up for failure and then blames other people on it. Not for me. So, Yumoya, hello, how are you? So, yeah, the clinic, she's fine. She's fine. She wishes something went wrong, but she's fine. The mukbangs continued, and there was more talking about the asshole. Not all of us. I'll give you an example of being an asshole and mentally ill, and it looking like one or the other. Okay, I talk kind of fast. Especially if I'm manic, I start to talk really, really, really at a high rate of speed. And if you're trying to talk to me, I'm probably going to start talking over you because of the excitement I have to speak. My language centers have lit up. Now that's rude to the person I'm talking to, but it's not my intent to hurt them. I still have. That doesn't go away. But it wasn't my intention to cause any harm or to be rude to the person. Now, if you take another circumstance where I'm perfectly mentally stable and talking to another person and getting hot and talking over them, that's not me having symptoms. That's me being the asshole. That's that part of it coming out. And that's much closer to being a personality thing than it does anything. They don't make pills for assholes. I think there's a saying in Italian very similar to that. I don't know. So it's hard. Yeah, it's really hard. She doesn't seem to understand. It's really hard to care about her. Like, it's really hard to care what happens to her. And there's a very big pool who think, she's got it coming, and they're just waiting to see the end of the show. They're waiting to see how it goes out. So mukbangs, there was a confusion of where she was last week with a lot of pre-recorded mukbangs. People were making the conclusion she was not in Kuwait or that she was traveling because everything was pre-recorded. She would try to date some of the videos. Oh, today is the 13th. She never mentions the date. She never puts anything in them that's time sensitive. And with the recorded mukbang, she sat there and said nothing. But, I thought of you last night and splurged on $20 worth of raspberries to throw in the Nesco. Awesome, Ponderous. Go for it. Right now, I've got Bago salad drawing for my vegetable powder in the Nesco. So, where is she? And is she gonna die after 80 seconds of exercise? There was a lot of discussion last week about how the shape of her body has changed, and by that I politely mean she got fatter. Or her clothing is just making her look 70 pounds heavier. I have a terrible way of guesstimating weight. I know she says 370. Maybe on the moon. I would guess closer to 400 into the 14s, probably. And I think she would fuck with the scale to not only fool the camera, but to try to fool herself. As long as she can make that scale say 370, she doesn't have to acknowledge that she's 425 or similar. But she's also hitting the point because of her height. Chantal is very short and actually rather petite under all of that. It seems weird, but that's why she can't get her hands up to her mouth when she's sitting, because she can't reach over it because her arms are short, because she's a 5'1" petite woman under 300 pounds of excess weight. So, weight loss is like a huge trend. It's like Houdini. I love losing weight. It was like being Houdini. It's like you turn yourself into someone else completely. And it was always fun to run into people I hadn't seen in a year, especially when I had dropped like 100 pounds, because it's like, and baby, look at me now. Hot stuff. Um, I would say for Chantal, I know people say I want that for her, and she says, fuck you, it's my life. I'm like, yeah, obviously, fuck you, it's my life has been your ethos. Look at where you're living. Look what's happening. Where's your man? Where's your paneer? Where's your I'm now the fattest woman on YouTube? Not that thing I said. I was going through and I saw Amy Slayton. Is it Amy or Tammy? The one in the wheelchair. Well, she's not in the wheelchair. She was standing up and she lost a lot of weight. She might want to get some surgeries. We'll see how comfortable she is, because when you're big, 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 the skin flaps don't always go away. I still get laps over in my chest and my stomach and my side. So she might want those, cut off. But, I mean, just blew off. And Hungry Fat Chick, who is doing her thing, her weight's coming off. Nikocado, who I don't like, but even a broken clock's right twice a day, he's doing his thing too. And the attention and the excitement is around losing weight. Maybe not getting healthier, but around like losing weight. She's just, I think, going to fill in the gap for the feeders who aren't going to get their fix from candy anymore. She'll just keep herself as the queen bee of it. And what a thing to be jealous of. So, hey Dom, how are you? Absolutely, absolutely. Mark's not here. Mark isn't here. So I'll pump through a few things for this week. We got a little time. We'll pass through. Chantal going at the beginning of this week back and forth with MBM. And she keeping fire under that situation, kind of escalating the situation. Everyone remembers, like, it was last week, she shared sympathy with someone who was a little too much like Karate Joe, apparently. And she sided with them because she hates a mob, even if it's a justified mob. And she took his side and said that the people saying things about him were just as bad, and he couldn't have done, he'd be in jail if he did all that stuff. So she didn't know what she was talking about. Put herself on the radar of some people who are, interested in enlightening people who don't know what they're talking about. And maybe, I don't know. So she was still engaging in that. I don't know, it takes over time. The last I had heard about any activity, but I didn't hear it related to MBM, but where else? That Salah's family had been doxxed, that their information had been released. And I could imagine, traced back to Chantal, it couldn't reflect well. I would love to be a fly on the wall in Salah's parents' kitchen to hear what they think is going on. I'd be always very curious to see how that would go. She's a contrarian. People who diagnose it or try to say oppositional defiant disorder, which is it's a diagnosis for a teenager who stays in that line of thought way through the rest of their life. So just to be contrary, she likes it. Makes her feel special. So the back and forth with that, no. And what's the problem is with Salas was very revealing. You can actually see that his family's discipline. Yeah, like that's words fail me on some of that stuff. I did a video 3 weeks ago and I titled it "She Has It Coming?" ? Because I think consensus is she does, but in what form, from what direction, and over how much period of time? Isn't OD essentially juvenile? Yeah. It's just an adult version. They usually only they used to always diagnose things, like even ADHD, it was more commonly diagnosed in kids. But that doesn't mean it wasn't happening among adults. I know a lot who are getting treatment for it now, and they were like, if I had known 30 years ago, if I had known 20 years ago, I would have started taking care of myself sooner. She's unfazed by the doxing because she said, what is the quote? "When you hurt my family, you're not hurting me." She's a real cozy person to invite over for Thanksgiving. Line those fuckers up. Just leave me alone. So if she doesn't care about her own family and it doesn't hurt her, why would Salah's either? It falls kind of in line with it. Now, what reflection that would have from them onto her, I don't know. I don't know what direction it would go. It's hard to say. ODD is the pediatric. She just still acts like a pediatric ODD consumer. It just goes on in life. The descriptions are always funny with mental health stuff. Stuff that you diagnose. There's so many things professionals diagnose in a kid that I would never, like, I don't know. I have opinions about kids and medication and diagnoses and obviously getting kids the help they need at school, at home, or wherever. But being very, very quick to medicate a kid, I'm not at all opposed to it. But, let's try it, tutoring first, something a little different. So, what did we do? What did we do here? Back and forth about the doxing thing. Again, I'm kind of like, I don't get why he stays. Some part of the agreement hasn't been breached. Whatever the agreement was, there hasn't been a deal breaker yet. Is Sala too nice of a guy to just say, here's your shit, go back to Canada? Even if he did, I get the feeling he'd be a ghoster. Like, he would just disappear. You wouldn't see a trace of him again. You'd never hear from him again. Rather than have a long, drawn out, let's do Nader again. And then what about him? Remember the time that Sala locked me in the apartment? He just locked the door and left me here. I'm putting those in my back pocket so that when this relationship goes south, she can say all the same things again. He treated her like a queen, and then, you guys don't know what it's like off camera. He's still holding out for the papers. It's the long game. Dude's playing the long game. They will both end up in Canada, and she'll say, that's not why we're here. I lived away for a year, okay? It's not about loving Canada. They wouldn't go to Canada anyway. She'll never work on paper in Canada again. If she makes any money there, it's going to get sucked up. So, she can't fly. Like, I don't know how she could, it's medically, I don't know how she would fly. Comfortably, I don't think she could. She should take her $5,000 tax-free a month and go buy a first-class ticket. It seems grand, but in her physical condition, which she doesn't have a disability, but it's very disabling, if that makes sense, then she's not gonna be able to go. She's not gonna be able to go. She won't be able to get around. I have a hard time getting around an airport. And of course I'm older than her, but, she's carrying all the extra weight. Usually the obvious reason for why Chantal can't do something is because she's too fat to do it. It spills out sideways. Dizzy, chest pain. Do you think you would have dizziness and chest pain if you were 190 pounds? Let's go to something more reasonable. Let's say 200. So, thank you for the clarity. Trella knows what's up. I've worked with kids, but I'm not a diagnosing pro, so I look at their charts, and sometimes a place will diagnose a kid with frickin' everything. So I'm guessing the residential treatment isn't all that it could have been in Canada, or it wasn't at the time Chantal was there. But those kind of situations for teenagers is like not problems at home, but they're not safe in the home. They're not okay in the home. So it's a higher level of care to take a kid, especially out of their house, and, put them in another kind of program. I was extremely concerned that she could not walk in the mall. Yeah, she was saying how hot it was, but then it was like, okay, mall walking. We have them in Scranton at the Steamtown Mall. There's a lot of silver surfer folks, but they get in and they go around and do their thing. So don't walk outside, it's too hot. So many people have said find a pool. That she's beyond low impact. She needs like no impact. Just trying to stay, I'm sure she's very buoyant. I can speculate that, being what we know about fats and solids and liquids and whatnot. Salah's getting access to her money, wants to get out of Kuwait. I think the long game is him out of Kuwait. I just wonder what he promised to her for that. What was his side of the deal? Is he foolish? Is he just some dumb fuckboy? Or otherwise, he has her at home and then does what, he goes camping with the other guys. I do understand they have segregated gender activities a lot, so a lot of times if he is with the guys, he probably is with the guys. But I don't know. I just can't imagine he's fake loving her, which was all she asked of Nader, and he couldn't do it, so I guess Salah's doing it. I don't know how I feel about that. To the extent that I could feel pity to Chantal, that makes it sad to me. She couldn't find a guy who liked her warts and all, I guess. They put her in the same right group as an extreme anorexic. I know, and the bitch ate her food. The UK, you can have mobility scooters. Yes. Hi, Caroline. How are you? And those aren't bad. If you need it, you need it. If you put yourself in a condition. I try not to judge, because let's say I go to Walmart and I see a woman Chantal's size on a scooter, and I think, you. But how do I know that they weren't 500 pounds before that? or 550. They may be on their way down losing weight, not on their way up. And so I pass judgment about that. However, that is not always the case. If it's only a convenience or because you're feeling lazy, then get off. People with real disabilities need to use them. But they do have them available. I mean, if you are a teenager, break your leg and you're in a foot cast, I would say go use the thing to go do your shopping. You can't be hobbling around the store. It's not like they're just for the elderly. But her age, at that age, she's like, is she 40? I mean, it's so much to throw away just for fast food. That's okay, Wookie. We're glad to see ya. She did have that with Pete's, but she wants someone that makes that her. Yeah. I don't know. So, they did have a date night, sort of, socially. They went out. Because she's struggling with her eating, he took her out to dinner. And they sat in a little private booth area. And the privacy, I mean, I think she goes out at night, and she goes out sparsely because she's embarrassed about how she looks. It gives her anxiety. But what's she anxious about? Is she afraid people will judge her? Is she afraid someone will approach her? Because she's all talk on camera and not off camera? Some people have kind of summed it up that way. I don't know if I do. I haven't had to. It hasn't crossed my path. But I don't know. Her level of fitness is so bad. I mean, you can say, well, there's plenty of thin people with blood clots, dizziness, asthma, vertigo, all the other things that she ended up with. So maybe she doesn't have them because she's fat, but maybe she does. Let's go that direction. Maybe it does. Maybe all of that has to do with her weight, and the only person who can do anything about her weight is her. And she can't blame anybody else because it sounds stupid. It's like when people I'd be in rehab with, I blame my mother for my drinking. Well, you live with her? No. Did you have a rough childhood? Not really. So why is it her fault you drink? Well, you should hear the way she talks to me. You sleep on her couch. You're a 45-year-old man. Mom might get mad, and it's okay if she does. It's perfectly okay. So when he did take her out, they sat in a little private booth, big plate of food, some really good looking, like, Arab pita breadish kind of, it looks so good. And she was eating, with whatever. And then after that, there was a video where they were out on the beach. So it reminded me of the first beach walk. There was another beach walk where she couldn't get down. She said she was afraid of squid, didn't want to go down to the water. And they were vlogging, kind of a la the couples channel, but I think it was on hers. And just vlogging, what's going on? What's this? And it's Salah doing it by himself because she's sitting on a bench, resting herself because it's too hot, too much to do. Kuwait's climate is more likely to change than her weight. I think she doesn't want to change herself. She wants to find a place that accommodates it entirely. So if she could live somewhere with, you can get your groceries delivered, all the Uber Eats, and she wouldn't have to do anything at all. She wants a life that would accommodate that. She doesn't want to change her life to get into the business of life and do what other people do, and have hobbies other than eating. We all eat. Some of us more, some of us less. But I think that's when people think she's taking advantage too. It's like, all you have to do is eat. Can you just not be obnoxious about it? Enough people will watch. And the people who do have turnarounds, now that Chantal is the lead, big girl, all the other big girls are shrinking. I don't know. She's too petty to congratulate them, I think. Because of course there'll be a comparison. They always run a few large girls together in a circle and people kind of keep up with their content, often overlapping. So if anything happens within that, people know. And is Chantal going to have her big moment? Is she going to have her moment when she's taking selfies and showing off that her stomach's, a little bit lower, but a hell of a lot flatter? And I thought maybe it was just attitude, but Amy Slayton, neither of the Slaytons. The first one who got the surgery, I liked. But not well liked and beyond just her physical appearance. It's not like she was a baby doll prior. But if the personality change can kick through, then after maybe she'll drop some weight. She'll look after herself. She got so petty over candy. She did. Oh, I don't go on. Yeah, show me. Eat yourself to death. That's a big flex. I think she thinks the rest of us have similar priorities, and that if any of us had the money she had, or the skills she has to make the money, we would be doing it too. As though no one else would. You lose a lot of dignity when you put certain things online, and then people send those undignified things to your in-laws. Um, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing the stuff she does online, no matter how much money it would make. And I'm not trying to take a moral high road. It's just, I think I'd be physically sick. I don't think I could eat as much as she does for the tension she does, for the time she does. Now, if I relapsed into active drinking, I could very easily sit down and have a few drinks all day, every day. But I would probably be as nasty on camera as her. Because when you're in addiction and you're not having fun, like when she's just eating to eat, when Sala comes in and she looks and says, I just want to eat, that's her way out. So, never any other people. There's no one out. There's no one out. Kuwait is insufferable during the daytime, so nobody does shit, apparently. This is Chantal's version. No, she's not making it to Candy's age. Chantal's not gonna, at this rate, over the last 6-7 months, people do get fat and happy sometimes when they get married, because it's like, okay, I'm settled, I have someone who loves me for the way I am. Maybe you put on 10 pounds. If being fit wasn't your thing, you at least gained back what you lost for the wedding, like I did. She's not going to have that moment. She's not going to have her and baby look at me now moment. That would be the biggest flex on everybody, for her to get well, be well, and it'll never happen. It'll never happen. Anything, yeah. And I don't her mukbangs are not as sloppy as they used to be, but the definition of binge, mukbang, snack, and meal are as flexible as she needs them. Whatever's in front of her. I said yesterday I'm not doing more mukbangs, so this isn't a mukbang, it's dinner. The difference? Well, sure, I'm still eating on camera. For money and attention. The difference of those is that she doesn't have to talk. She just sits there and eats, and eats, and eats. Oh, this is good. Oh, and it's all shit fast food, I liked when they went out to do the restaurant thing for their evening out, but I thought they were going to look at stuff. I was thinking it was going to be like an open market and all sorts of cool stuff. In my head, I had a Marrakeshi idea about it. Yeah, she complained about the humidity. The ocean's across the street. You know how many people would take better advantage of her opportunities and advantages? I think when people see someone who in one area of their life have kind of a blessed life, and you could say financially she did. Of course, if she was upfront, she wouldn't have had all that money to spend to begin with. I think Canada probably has a pretty high tax rate for someone who was making as much as she was. So if that money hadn't been removed, they're going to expect it at some point. Scared away the cat's chance from getting food. Yes, the cat problem she had mentioned and said was, isn't it funny how she can only walk for 2 minutes? You can eat for 20. Oh, yeah. Well, she's no quitter. She's no quitter. Not so much. So, anyway, her back and forth. Her fitness, the stuff, where is she? She's falling behind the big girls. Okay, so they went for a walk on the beach again, or they were going to go for the walk on the beach. This is the ocean board? Obesity battling beach walk that they were doing. And this was the second time she'd gone to the beach after the first one where she didn't want to do anything. And she couldn't do it again. Oh, I can't go down there. I'm afraid of squid, and it's too hard to walk in the sand. It's, it's too much the sand is too much impact. So I don't understand the disconnect when she's out there and she can't move her body because it's so weighted down with food that she can't do anything. And she's decided that's worth the trade-off. But the time is now if you think you're going to do anything. People say she's already turned the corner. She's not about to turn a corner. She's just turning a corner. Right now, at this point, the only bigger person on YouTube besides currently Chantal was Jen, as far as in the circle of girl world. And, I would like Jen's, I don't know. She had her own demons too, and she had her own past too. And she went through the doxing thing, and people went pretty thick through her past too. It's unfortunate she died because I think, obesity can be fatal, but it doesn't have to be terminal. Like you could lose your weight and go die of something else, 40 years from now. But if you keep the weight on, it's going to be tougher and tougher. She can't walk. And when she was doing the, hey, funny girl, rough estimate of her income might be, I'm going to say, you can't go by Social Blade too well. I'm going to say 4,000, maybe 3 to 5, depends on the month. She took a hit with all those pre-recorded mukbangs while she was doing whatever she was doing offline because people were catching on to it and they were boring unless you actually were there just to watch her chew, which there are those folks. But if you're not, you probably weren't. And she made those and they were all boring as fuck. So, cats all over the place. The poor cat. She doesn't even seem to like the cat. She doesn't talk about the cat like she did about BBJ or Sam. Now, granted, her care of the animals probably told the biggest truth about how she felt about them. But the cat she has now, after having to make all those arrangements to get rid of the other two, and picks up another one and a hamster, and what happens to them when she decides to be flighty and leave Kuwait? They stay? They go back on the street? That's like the most selfish reason to get a pet. Should be a little more transactional, I would think. And I've never had pets, and I have to say that we have 2 cats. We had one for 5-6 years, and then Oscar just moved in about a year ago. We took care of him as like a totally outdoor cat for a while. And I would never, they kept me sane during COVID. They were here all day. It was someone to talk to when I was talking to myself, and it was a little snuggly. And Bandit doesn't really like me as much, but it would make me feel special when he'd come rub on my leg. So there was a lot of good interaction and a lot of good to be had from it. And I see her relationship with the cat too. I'm thinking that looks like a sweetie. She'd probably be fun at home. Get out of the way. Throw food so the cat goes to chase it. As she sits on the floor in front of her couch with what looks like a big box up to here, plastic bags, and because she can't reach this way, she's got to eat this way. Like Garfield, with food in each hand. So, I have more chemistry with the cashier at Walmart than she does with her husband. Now, I don't know if Salah's. I want to lead towards dumb versus I don't think the way they talk, the babe thing. It's so fake. It is so fake. I know couples that do it. Bae, hey bae, what's up bae? No, they add the extra B with it, but I don't get the impression he likes her very much. I don't hear her. He's a cat dad. Well, maybe just because you're there and you have a cat. So. But he doesn't have any, I don't know. I guess he's still doing the fragrance business. She had said during a mukbang that was, well, it wasn't a mukbang, of course, because they aren't. She was sitting and eating and talking about now how she has to keep her life that much more private. She won't. She doesn't profit off of that. The drama, which brings the money, is around her sucking other people into her life, even if it's her husband and his family, But she's not concerned with that. She doesn't have the feeling that if something's hurting someone else close to me, then that's as bad as it happening to me, and I'm going to do what I can to squash that situation, even if it means, putting my tail between my legs if I have to. Because the more escalated a situation like that gets, then it sucks in. And depending on what kids on the playground you're playing with, they may take it a little further if they feel compelled. That's just what it is. So getting closer and closer to my 600-pound life. If she sprains her ankle, she's bedbound. Like for real, not one of her fake, I want to get out of walking injuries. Like if she for real hurt her knee, hurt her ankle, and the way that she has to shuffle step now instead of one in front of the other, she's out there doing the electric slide on the beach because she can't get her legs to go back and forth. How do you miss that? Hey Patrick, how are you doing? Things are good here. Things are very good here. We're discussing our fair lady Chantal. She went for, let's see, she crab walk. Yeah, it's a little strange. And not to pass judgment on her because of her size, but she kind of wobbles when she walks now. The pain, funny girl, I had said earlier, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I was like, she's not in any pain. She is, but it's maddening because she could remedy the problem and she won't. Whatever she's getting out of her addiction now is more than she would get out of a recovery life. Now, of course, without the food addiction, it'd be easier to watch her weight. And you can do a lot more things with your husband at 200 pounds that you can't do it for. It limits his life, and it makes him less likely to invite her to go do stuff. Maybe he does want to go hang out with the guys. He can't take her anywhere. She can't walk for 2 minutes more. And she's not doing anything to address it other than eat and blame other people for that. So, I don't know. I don't know. But you can tell then he's having some feelings because he's bringing in the salads, the Subway, the stuff like that. So, thank you, Dova. Thank you for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you stopped in. So, as far as what I think of Solid, is there's been accusations, reasonable ones, very, that, he's part and parcel with her gaining all this weight because he brings her the food. She doesn't go out. She said it's too hot in Kuwait. She moved to a country where 7 months out of the year she won't leave the inside. So, yeah, won't address it. We'll address it off camera. Yeah, the veggies, like, she just, like a kid, just picks it. If she doesn't like it, just move this over this way, move this over that way. He isn't taking her to the red room. No, we do know that that's not what's going on, whatever he's up to. And you think that the jealousy would kill her, except if she knew that it was, because if he was out doing whatever Natter did, if she was getting texts, couldn't get a hold of him, couldn't find him, he didn't come home, she'd be bullshit about it unless she expected it because she knew from the beginning. If he was only home a couple days a week and she was just going to hang out and whatever. So it has been almost nearly a year. She fucked up, I thought, in one of her videos when she was doing the pre-recorded mukbang kind of week. She had mentioned in one of the videos that she had been with Sala for, I don't know, 6, 7 months. But at the time, it was closer to like 10 or 9. It was a little bit later. So I think she's maybe, I don't know, maybe she made that video ahead as well. Because the video was about changing my diet. I mean, that would be appropriate any effing time for her to post a video like that. So it doesn't really have to be locked in time and space like it did some of the other ones. She could have made that video 2 months ago too, as much as she did eating a tuna sandwich. Because every few months or so, she goes on that anyway. I'm going to do well. I'm going to eat whole foods, plant-based, healthy carbs. Nothing. And then 2 hours later, we're at Taco Bell. The invitation of people, when she invites you into her life to support her, but only that, I think she likes that feeling. But she has zero obligation to anyone if she says she's going to do something and she doesn't. She figures her lies don't hurt anyone except people that she doesn't like. Because I guess the people who really understand her and like her love to be lied to. Maybe they expect it. I don't know if that's better, honestly. But, I don't know. Speaking of lies and deception, she still is doing the cosplay of being a Muslim. She always has been such a cockroach marvel. I think I was so shocked at her. Thank you, here to judge. Thank you very much. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think that this Muslim thing is going to go on forever. But I also find I'm not Muslim, and I'm not looking to be hurt. I'm not the type that goes looking for, like, certain things to point out and freak out about, but she's, like, clearly not living a Muslim lifestyle. And you don't have to tell everyone you're Muslim, but when you do the most extreme thing, and she could only be covered more if she went up to here. She does all the most extreme stuff, but then in her practice, doesn't do any of the stuff that the theology calls for, or the philosophy calls for. It's just an outfit to her. It's just an outfit. She got an outfit because she likes brown Muslim guys right around the rim, and she thought if she looked like a Muslim, or was Muslim, she could make it work. She came on wearing a hijab, saying it was totally out of respect for the culture. But, with everything with Chantal, the rest of us, it's like boiling a frog. You get in at one point, you think it's not going to get more extreme than this, and then you get continuously numb to the insanity, to the point where you can make a video and just plainly say she's out of her freaking mind, and it's like not news. So, anniversary party for them? God. To her, I don't know. That's why I think there's got to be some sort of arrangement, because he's not like, he brings her food. That's it. That's his husbandly duties. Escort her out once in a while and bring her food, and she stays home and does whatever else she does. I know he doesn't sit around there all day with her. I'm positive he doesn't. He either has a real job or other things to do. She looks better wearing a hijab. When she had hair, the hijab looks better than a wig. I'll give her that. But, does she have a head-body disconnect? Focus on the face? Yeah, she's lived so much online where you only see us all from here. You ever see, I'm sure you guys follow other people on YouTube, and we would go for that too. You think, oh, they're handsome, or they're good looking, and then you see they stand up to go off camera for something, and they're a lot shorter than you thought. They're a lot wider than you thought. They're a lot skinnier than you thought. You know, he's not dropping her off at the apartment. He's parking the car. You know, so her mobility decline. Yeah, her mobility decline is awful, and it's not bothering her. She just lives from meal to meal. It doesn't really fuck her up. She did talk about using like edibles. What was it, last week, maybe the week before? About how, you know, she doesn't use them because they're not legal in Kuwait, but she's not going to be in Kuwait forever, so maybe sometime. Anytime she could get away with it, I'm sure she does. And her stating that the Kuwaiti pharmacy, you can get a lot of prescription stuff, would be here over the counter there. So she can kind of play doctor to herself, which is what she always does, but the last thing that helps. And after all this, if she does end up in a hospital, God willing, because that would be the best place for her, not Muslim, I'm appalled by the cosplaying. I am too. I don't want to be out. I don't want to be like guilty, outraged white guy on YouTube, but it's fucking rude. It is. Like, why don't you go around dressed like a nun and then treat everyone like shit? You're not a good representative for the faith. You know, which means that your intentions, and people convert when they get married. I'll convert to Judaism to marry my wife because she's from a Jewish line and I have to, and people do it. But you got to do more than just go through the motions of it to have anyone believe it. And because their interaction is so scripted and boring, what's worse? She's having those scripted discussions with Salah, or it's just like how they talk to each other. You know, his English is pretty limited, so I can understand him going, yeah, babe, sure, babe, hey, babe, whatever, babe, at her request, because why does she always say revert instead of convert when she does none of it? It's a costume. It's just a costume, an unfortunate one. And the joke's on her, but she doesn't get it yet. She doesn't understand. She's not seeing the end of this as it could be. Let's say they do travel. The big goal for her to lose weight, not to keep her heart beating, but to drag that fat ass on a plane and go travel. So if she's healthy, you know, and not a danger to anyone or anything like that, then, you know, go do what you want. But then we get all this content. She's not going to share anything private, but I'm going to get on the scale and we're going to go to the doctor. I'm going to tell you about my STD history. And she gets to say now, that was in a former life. I'm trying to move on. Bury and hide, not move on. Bury and hide. Otherwise, we wouldn't delete millions of views worth of videos. Conspicuously the ones that don't paint us in a favoring light if we're going date shopping. So, I don't know. She did go into a bit of a rage, but it wasn't the worst that I've ever seen her go into. Like I said, the things that would be happening with Salah and the doxing doesn't affect her. You can tell on her face it doesn't affect her. If Salah wants her to be upset about it, she will. And she'll go on camera and be upset about it. But she'll always use her personal stuff. When she was making 16, 17, she had said one time 25 or 35 grand a month. It was at the height of those 5-hour live streams where she was gaslighting being abused and talking about Nader. And after she defended him to us for hours on end, she'd go back and do that messy shit. Drive over to his house, sit in the car, blast Melissa Etheridge outside, and then accuse people of wasting police time when she gaslit a viewer to call them to go in to get part of her medical device from Nader's apartment. So, wasting police time. They probably have it come up on their caller ID when Chantal calls. Like, what is it now? Who's harassing her now? What's going on now? And it's interesting in the mix of all these things that have happened to Chantal, since there was some more elevated in parts into her life, like the mom who the car almost got towed, and the uncle, and all that kind of stuff. That stuff doesn't affect her. She's not there anymore. She's safe. She's somewhere very far away. 25K and no taxes. Even if it was half that with no taxes, which I'm sure during the good months she did. But, I mean, even if you're not good with money, I would get something like permanent. Like I'd buy a house, you know, and maybe would treat myself to a car that was comfortable to me. So maybe she would get like an F-150. She'd never get into it. If she could build the steps to get into it, she'd probably be much more comfortable behind the wheel. Instead of, you know, with the, where's your Hyundai? So She would likely go live to say she isn't going to practice. It's going to be, yeah, exactly, Unique. It would be a big deal. She would put up a community post talking about a big change, and the community post would show like a bit of her hair. Yeah, pay off the current car. Like, I wouldn't, if I had the cash on hand for major purchases, I wouldn't use credit. I wouldn't finance it because then it's like a one and done. You know, I've always financed cars because that's just how life has looked. You know, I skipped about 10 years in the middle of my maturity. So I had to pay all those off and shitty interest rates, and that's is what it is. But if I had the cash on hand to do it and not draw up debt with it, or take out, let's say, several $1,000 payday loan, never pay it back, and leave the country, there's a lot of like scammy stuff like that that can catch up with people too. You know, I think Chantal is probably, her finances are a nightmare. It was probably too confusing to do them or to even give them to somebody, so she didn't. She was still hoping the police would let her in the trap house. Yeah. It was so stupid. And she lied so easily and defended it by saying, I didn't lie, I changed my mind. I just didn't tell anybody I changed my mind. So behaviorally, yes, it looks like I lied, but I never told you what I was actually going to do. And if I change my mind, I can't change my mind. People change their minds. Can you believe this, Beezers? They're telling us that people like we can't change. Do you see the rally a mob thing she tries to do? You're not going to take us. You're not going to take us down. Honey, there's no one behind you. Nobody. The handful of VIBs eventually graduate to former VIBs who spill beans. I don't know, Chris. How long would you put up with it? I'm sure he's had second thoughts. I don't think he's a shut-in with her. I don't think he's there. Well, he's in his own space. If he sits in there and plays games and does his channel all day, you know, BB wasn't super social on camera, but that relationship still lasted years. At least it lasted a few years on camera. But she wasn't having psychodrama with other people, instigating it and then hoping to pin herself as the victim of it for the audience. She was just eating her food. She was kind of like the flighty, funny, quirky, a little too quirky. They're all doxxed. You don't want to get close to her because she runs her mouth and all of a sudden everyone finds out who your family is. Everyone finds out your private business. At this point, she says she's not going to share any, but what the hell is she going to talk about? What is she going to talk about that isn't personal? Her views on her religion? Mukbangs aren't too personal, except you have to ask, where does a 400-pound housebound woman get her food from? And then says her husband loves her. I don't know. The house that Amber and them lived in could have paid it. Oh, Amberlyn Reed? She had mentioned in passing she saved money, but it's hard to tell. Like, if I had that much money, I'd buy a place. So that way they can't make you leave. So, I don't know. Unless it's condemned, which happens. You know, ours was condemned. And I wonder if the villa was condemned upon her departure. I suspect that she left Pete with all the bills, all the trash, and was like, fuck it, I'll never see anybody again. I have to think of me and put me first. If ever there was like a dumb thing for a person like her to say, I gotta put myself first. It's all about me now. This is the year of Chantal. YouTube won't. Bonnie, if you... Hello, Kmars, welcome. YouTube wouldn't be forever, and TOS can change like that. They could decide very suddenly they don't want small channels, and Chantal thinks she's hot shit. If you go on the scale of big channels, she's like the mid-range bully who gets bullied by the popular kids, and so she swings down and tries to hit smaller channels to make herself feel like a person. Makes her feel good about herself to treat people poorly. Such a departure. Yes. Big change of plans for her. Big shift in priorities. Put myself first. So, I'm going to be very curious going forward what the hell she's going to do for content. If she doesn't want to do anything personal, what the hell is she going to talk about? Very young, even in market. They don't even try. There's a laziness there. And not everyone's goal has to be a billionaire. You always hear people saying, well, I'm not afraid of hard work. I worked every day of my life. Are you a billionaire? No. Well, what's wrong? You didn't try hard enough? You know, they have programs for that. If you weren't so lazy, you'd be able to. So. And what I was also thinking, this was the final thought because I was starting to, Queens of Comedy kind of rolled in as I was watching. And it was thinking about Chantal, oh, I can't do this, can't go to the beach, can't do this activity. And if it comes to a lot of things with Chantal and she can't do any of the activities with Sala that they would do, what did Monique, Monique, what you won't do, another bitch will. So if you don't want to go for walks and you don't want to go out to dinner, and he'll find someone else to do it with. It was an arrangement anyway. I think with Natter, she had this idea that yes, it was an arrangement, but through the process, he would fall in love with her. Because how could she not? She's so lovable. And he was just completely put off and just doing a quick slam and here's some leftovers, get out of here. That was during the time when she wasn't being viewed sympathetically that she started discussing alleged abuse. I have to say alleged because there was no charges and no one was found guilty. The charges she filed, she dropped. So, after getting a lot of support from people over a long period of time about being in a bad situation, built it all the way up to the end and then did. Drive-through bees, yeah. Ugh, it's hot. There's my surprise, I'm bald. Don't die of shock. Don't die of shock. So, wrapping up this week, I'm not sure, considering the stuff that just happened with Zala's family. I'm thinking, she's been a little bit different with her way of approaching things. Like when all that stuff happened with Kaya and all that, she really didn't have much to say. She was just putting out script. She had her own stuff to do. So she put up other content. She's watching it because Chantal looks for any instance to align herself with what she thinks is a victim. That's what happened the first time. So that helps, Ka. Thanks. You have a frost warning tonight? I wish you would, Christine. I love cold weather, especially at night. It's so good for sleeping, but not so much. It's humid here. We're going to have a break in the weather in a few days. And then, what are your thoughts on Sala and his professional family tree? Wayward son? The one who didn't succeed? Like, if they had a couple kids, how could you be unaware that you're already earning a 6 year? I think family, from what I know, without trying to make up stuff, that in certain parts of the world, family and the more collectivistic vibe is what's important. It's not about me. It's about family first. My needs come second. Chantal could never make sense of that. Never. Even if she lost weight and got some therapy, she would never lose that. So, and if they're not on his ass about receiving information about her or pictures or what have you, wayward sounds like they're at the top. Yeah, the wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Low intelligence, impulsive spending. I don't think she understands the difference in money, transfer, like it's this much in Canada versus this much in Kuwait. I don't know if she understands how that works. So maybe she's spending more or less than she thinks. I don't know if she's paying anything to Canada. You can still get a cameo. She's been advertising cameo in all the videos. Well, there's that pre-record she shoved in. And then another mention of it. But I don't know anybody else. We're not big enough to be on cameo. So that's supposed to make tears hit the pillow. Because I can't be on what the fuck is Cameo? That's where all the D-list celebrities who failed out of Celebrity Fit Club go for $10 an hour to talk about being a character they played in a show 60 years ago. But sure, buy it. Go ahead. She doesn't understand seasons. No, they happen outside. She doesn't do outside. It is always in the low 60s in Chantal's house, I'm sure. People think she's anything but the nothing she is myself. I don't know. I don't know. So going into next week, I'm waiting to see if there's she'll have a private discussion because she can't help herself. She'll have a private discussion and a chat about whatever, maybe members only. But she can't trust her members only crew either, though. Celebrity Fit Club. Yeah, the shows that they run on the Preview Guide channel, she's not as famous as them. She's like twice removed from Carney Wilson. Like, yeah, I know the name. Maybe. Is she somebody's brother? So, and I can't, unless you were a super VIB, you're not getting a cameo from Chantal. You're not. I'm sure people asked her to do all sorts of crazy things on camera and would pay the $20 for it. Yeah, if you like the old shows, like Star Trek or who was it? There's like a lot of other people you can get. Cleopatra, the Queen of Denial. Exactly. Exactly. Our Lady of Perpetual Dissatisfaction, Saint Chantal of Cornwall. Chris Hansen. Yeah, you can talk to Chris Hansen on Cameo. There's a couple other people, like the girl who played Tracy Turnblad in the movie version of. She never did anything again, really. The movie version of Shampoo. It'll come across my Facebook every so often, and I'll be like, "What is the category of celebrity that you would see?" It's usually like, who was the guy who was Klinger from MASH, like that level of famous. And so she's in with them. I wouldn't get it from her. Does any of us really think anything will truly change with her? All joking aside, no, something would have to. I think a medical emergency, a serious one, would get her attention. But it's then when she does with it. I think she has flashes of reality every so often, but when it gets too real, she eats something. Or she gets herself into a fight, so she stops thinking it. She wants it all to be about her, but then when all the attention is on her, she doesn't understand why everyone's looking at her. You made a spectacle of yourself. Of course people are going to come look. Of course. And she stands out. She has an odd-shaped body, and it looks a little odd shaped under the garments that she's wearing. Inpatient, at least 90 days. And then maybe another 90 of like a halfway house, step-down care. And she's got polysubstance dependence, co-occurring mental health concerns. Her disclosure, from what things she's said, she has these concerns. And I think someone who was struggling hard with any one of those things might look at someone like her who could have the resources to get help and to fix it. And instead they just double down on it and say, I don't care. Even if I eat myself to death, it's my choice. You're just jealous because you don't have enough money to eat yourself to death. Yeah. I don't. Which is good. So, we'll see. Just a heads up, guys. Maybe I'll be getting thin or something. I've started back into looking after myself physically, so we'll see. I'm not going to give you a bathroom scale weigh-in where only like 1 foot is on the scale and my thumb's on the floor. So, the Simone Biles of mental gymnastics. Indeed, indeed. Well, folks, thank you all for coming today. Thank you all for being here. It's been a good chat. I'm glad everyone got to stay for a little while. Thank you, Mods, absolutely, for being here as well. She could lose 100 pounds in different life work. Like, she doesn't even know. She doesn't even know what she's missing. She doesn't even know. And every fat person, and I say this as a former fat person, every fat person should go out and be skinny once. You don't even realize how different we all sometimes can treat people when it's not us. Like, he must wash your feet. Well, she had Pete's putting her socks on, Caroline, so I'm pretty sure he'd probably have to. And if he doesn't, then she just has unwashed feet for the last 7 months. So thank you all again for being here. Please give a thumbs up on your way out. Hit the bell. You'll get alerts when we have new videos and when we go live. We're on Twitter at SmokeySteve, Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc, and Instagram at SmokeySteve. And SmokeySteveAndMarc, one word. All right. Thank y'all for being here. We'll catch up with you soon, and everybody have a great night. We'll be back live tomorrow night at 6 for our regular talk about whatever we want. Chit chat. Doesn't have to stay on Chantal. So thanks for being here, everybody. Everyone have a good night. Be safe. Whatever the weather is where you are, take care, and we'll check in tomorrow. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you, lurkers. Bye.